भेद अभावित हो भेद प्रतीति नित्यतत्वाश्रित. Even in the absence of actual difference, the appearance of difference is an eternal principle. Dharma dharmi bhav adigata swagata bhed nitya nivarja. And what appears to be a swagata bhed, internal distinction, in the form of the distinction between dharma and dharmi, the possessor of the qualities and the qualities, etc., is forever unavoidable. But this is not like the swagata bheda of materialism, because swagata bheda vivarjit atma, that is also a scriptural statement. Anyway, we'll come to all of these discussions at the right places when we study the scriptures. এই সমস্ত বিষয়ের সূক্ষ্ম বিচার গীতা শাস্ত্রের যথাস্থানে দ্রষ্টব্য. All these analysis, all this analysis of all these fine or detailed analysis of these topics can be taken up at the appropriate places in this Gita Shastra. এই শাস্ত্রে জীবাত্মা পরমাত্মা পরমাত্মার ধাম ও তৎপ্রাপ্তি উপায় স্বরূপ সকল যথাযথ নিরূপিত হইয়াছে. In this shastra, the nature of the jivatma, the paramatma, the abode of the paramatma, which is Vaikuntha, as well as the means to attain that abode, all of these have been factually described. Jivatma yathatmi, paramatma yathatmyer upayogi. The understanding of the factual nature of the jivatma is helpful for understanding the factual nature of the paramatma. Paramatma yathatmya tat upasana upayogi. And understanding the factual nature of the paramatma is useful for engaging in worship or meditation of that supreme soul. And prakriti kal o karma সৃষ্টিকর্তা পরমেশ্বরের উপকরণ স্বরূপ এই রূপ উপদিষ্ট হইয়াছে. It is also described that prakriti, kala and karma are accessories for the supreme lord who is the creator of this world. Yathatmya prapti rupai, the means to understand the factual nature of all of these, jivatma, paramatma, and the abode of paramatma, are threefold. Karma, jnana, bhakti, bhede, trividha. In terms of karma, jnana and bhakti. Palasha, o kartrutva abhinivesh, त्याग पूर्वक स्वधर्म अनुष्ठान द्वारा हृद विशुद्धि हইলে ज्ञान और भक्ति साधनेर उपकार হয়. When one gives up the hopes for enjoying the results, the material results of karma, which are the material duties prescribed in the Shastras, as well as when one gives up the question that one is the sole responsible agent for the production of those results. When one executes his swadharma and he attains full purification of the heart, meaning freedom from lust, anger, greed, then that is helpful for the sadhanas of jnana and bhakti. অতএব পরম্পরা ক্রমে কর্মের তার সাধনা উপায়ত্ব স্বীকৃত হয়ে আছে. Therefore, in a sequence, karma has been accepted as being a means for attaining factual realization of the nature of the Jivatma, the Paramatma, the abode of the Paramatma, and so on. Mukhya or Gauna Bhede, karma, dui prakar. And the karma is distinguished as primary and secondary. So karma is of two types because of that. Arthat, in other words, Shruti, Vihita, Himsa Shunna Karmai Mukhya. Activities of karma that are prescribed in the Shruti and which are devoid of violence are the ones that are primary. Oh, and Tad Vihita Himsa Jukta Karmai Gauna. And those activities of karma which are prescribed in the Shruti but which are endowed with violence are secondary. कर्मेर द्वारा हृद विशुद्धि क्रमे ज्ञान है. Through such engagement in karma, when one attains hrid vishuddhi, purification of the heart, then jnana or knowledge develops. Say jnana vishishta hoile bhakti rupe parinata hoy. And that when that knowledge becomes distinguished, then it is transformed into bhakti. Jatakhon Pataksha Bhikshan Dara কেবল চিদ্দেক তত্ত্বের অনুসন্ধান হইতে থাকে ততক্ষণ তাহার নাম জ্ঞান. As long as there is a side glance towards pure fully pure absolute truth, Supreme Lord, when there's a pursuit of the pure absolute truth through such sidelong glances or such glances, then that process is known as jnana. Tadvara salokya, sarupya, samipya, sashti or sayujya adi prapti. And it is through that knowledge that one attains salokya, sarupya, samipya, sashti, sayujya, etc. যখন ওই জ্ঞানের পরিপাক অবস্থায়, and when that knowledge is matured, নির্নিমেষ ভীক্ষণ রূপ অনুসন্ধানের উদয় হয়. And then there is the pursuit of unblinking vision of the absolute truth of Bhagavan. তখন চিদেকে তত্ত্বগত চিদ্বৈচিত্রী লীলা রস বিশেষ আশ্রিত ক্রৌড়ীকৃত সালোক্যাদি শুদ্ধ ভক্তি স্বরূপে ভগবত ভরিবস্যাদি লাভ রূপ সর্বোত্তম পুরুষার্থ তত্ত্বোদয় হয়. Then the supreme purushartha arises. And that supreme purushartha, supreme goal of life is attainment of the blissful service, worship, service, and service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is actually a form of Shuddha Bhakti and which includes Salokya and other forms of liberation. Such Shuddha Bhakti being based on the spiritual variegated rasas that are part of the Lord's pastimes, which is actually a part of that one pure absolute truth. Jnana or bhakti imatra prabhe. This is the distinction between jnana and bhakti. Gita শাস্ত্রের প্রথম ছয় অধ্যায়ে ঈশ্বরাংশ জীবের জ্ঞান ও নিষ্কাম কর্ম সাধ্য শ্রী ঈশ্বরের ভজন উপযোগী স্বরূপ প্রদর্শিত হইয়াছে. In the first 6 chapters, knowledge concerning the jiva, who is a part of Ishvara, as well as such knowledge being attainable through nishkama karma, and such knowledge being useful for engaging in bhakti to Ishvara, who is the source of the jivas, who is the complete whole, the jivas being a part of that complete whole. Madhya Choy Adhyaye, in the middle 6 chapters, Parama Prapya Prapani Tan Mahima Buddhi Purvika Bhaktir Upadesh Drishta Hoy. We see instructions on bhakti which are preceded by an awareness of the greatness of the Supreme Lord. This bhakti is a means by which one can attain the supreme goal. And Antya Choy Adhyaye Purvokta Ishvaraji Tattve Parishodhita Swarup Siddhanta Varnan Purva Charame Shuddha Bhaktir Pratipatti Pradarshita Kalyache. In the final 6 chapters, the conclusions pertaining to the natures of Jiva Prakriti Kala Karma are clarified. After a description of those conclusions, at the very end, the final determination regarding Shuddha Bhakti is also shown. Shraddhalu, Sadharmanistha, Vijitendriya Vyakti, Shastraya Adhikari. A person who has Shraddha, who is Sadharmanistha, who is fixed in transcendental dharma. Transcendental dharma is acceptance of those elements of Vedic dharma that take one to the highest Purushartha. In other words, Bhagavata dharma. And Vijitendriya. And a person who is also who has also brought all of his mind and all of his senses and mind under full control is eligible for this scripture. Swanishta, Parinishthita, or Nirapeksha Bhede, Uhara, Tribhita. There are 3 types: Swanishta, Parinishthita, and Nirapekshas. Swargadi Lok Darshan Vasana Sahakare. Nishthar Sahit. Bhagavad Archan Rup Swadharmer Acharanकारी Swanishta. Swanishta is a person who carries out his specific duties, accepting them as a form of worship of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, along with a steady desire to see the worlds of Swarga and so on, which are actually the results of karma. लोक संग्रह वांछाय स्वधर्म आचरण पूर्वक हरिभक्ति निरत पुरुषै परिनिष्ठित. That person is a parinishthita when he is absorbed happily in haribhakti while executing his specific material duties with a desire to benefit the world, loka sangraha. Tad upayai ashrama ashrita. Both the Swanishtas and Parinishthas have taken shelter of one of the 4 ashramas, are Satya, Tapo, Japa, Adidara, Vishuddha Chitta, Ekanta Haribhaktai, Nirapeksha or Nirashram. And that person who is exclusively engaged in Haribhakti a one-pointed Haribhakta, whose mind is already pure through truthfulness, austerities, japa, and other such items pertaining directly to the service of the Lord, is accepted as a nirapeksha, an indifferent renunciant, or nirashram, and is transcendental to the ashrama system. Sri Krishna Lakshan Parameshwari Vachya, the Supreme Lord, who is none other than Sri Krishna, is the Vachya, or the one who is the subject matter of the scripture. Evam Ukta Gita Shastra Vachak, and this Gita Shastra is considered to be the one that describes this Sri Krishna. So in other words, there's a Vachya Vachika relationship between the subject matter of this book and the scripture. So this book is a description of Lord Sri Krishna. That is the point. Sri Krishna Tattvai Shastrer Ekmatra Vishay. And the truth regarding Sri Krishna is the one and only topic of the scripture. एवं अशेष क्लेश निवृत्ति पूर्वक श्री कृष्ण तत्व साक्षात्कार ही शास्त्रेर एकमात्र प्रयोजन. And the one and only goal of the scripture is to bring about the cessation of all the miseries, and then to bring about the direct experience of Sri Krishna. Okay, so then get back to Prabhupada's introduction, where Prabhupada paraphrases portions of these introductions. ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who was established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapatakamatam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savathutam Parjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sarvan Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami along with his elder brother Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda along with Advaitacharya, Gadadhar, Srivas and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radha Rani and Sri Krishna along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishakha. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते. Oh my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Karuna Sindhu, you are an ocean of mercy. You are most beloved to the gopikas, Gopika Kanta. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Shubhanusute Devi, Pranamami Haripriye. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Vancha Kalpatarushascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone just like desire trees, and they're full of compassion for the fallen souls. The Vaishnavas are described as Kripa Sindhubhya, oceans of compassion. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta. I offer my obeisances to Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Bhagavad-gita is also known as Gita-Bhusana. It is the essence of Vedic knowledge and one of the most important Upanishads of Vedic literature. Of course, there are many commentaries in English on the Bhagavad-gita, and one may question the necessity for another one. This present edition can be explained in the following way. Recently, an American lady asked me to recommend an English translation of Bhagavad-gita. Of course, in America, there are so many editions of Bhagavad-gita available in English. But as far as I've seen, not only in America, but also in India, none of them can be strictly said to be authoritative, because in almost every one of them, the commentator has expressed his own opinions without touching the spirit of Bhagavad Gita as it is. So that leads us to the question of what is that spirit of Bhagavad Gita, which Prabhupada now takes up for discussion. The spirit of Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita itself. It is just like this. If we want to take a particular medicine, then we have to follow the directions written on the label. We cannot take the medicine according to our own whim or the direction of a friend. It must be taken according to the directions on the label or the directions given by a physician. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita should be taken or accepted as it is directed by the speaker himself. The speaker of Bhagavad Gita is Lord Sri Krishna. He is mentioned on every page of Bhagavad Gita as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Of course, the word Bhagavan sometimes refers to any powerful person or any powerful demigod. And certainly here, Bhagavan designates Lord Sri Krishna as a great personality. But at the same time, we should know that Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as is confirmed by all great acharyas, spiritual masters like Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbaka Swami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and many other authorities of Vedic knowledge in India. So the Prabhupada's point is, Krishna should be accepted as the supreme amongst all the worshipable deities in Vedic culture, as taught in the Vedic scriptures. That is how Shankaracharya also presents Lord Vishnu in his commentaries on the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, and Bhagavad Gita. In his commentaries to these three, Prasthana these three foundational scriptures, Shankaracharya is very clear that Vishnu is the supreme worshipable deity. It is not that Vishnu and Shiva are equal or Vishnu and Shakti are equal and all that. In his commentaries to these foundational scriptures, he makes it clear. Of course, this is a point that is also made by Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarkacharya, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as well as by Sridhar Swami, who belongs to Vishnu Swami line, Vallabhacharya, who belongs to Vishnu Swami line. The Lord himself also establishes himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Bhagavad Gita, and he is accepted as such in the Brahma Samhita, in all the Puranas, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam known as the Bhagavata Purana, Vishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Therefore, we should take Bhagavad Gita as it is directed by the Personality of Godhead himself. In the fourth chapter of the Gita, 4.1 to 3, the Lord says, Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam. Vivaswan Manave Praha Manu Ikshvaka Vedravit Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajashiyo Vidhu Sa Kalene Hamata Yogo Nashta Parantapa Sa Evayam Mayatedye Yoga Prokta Prata Bhakto Sime Sakha Cheti Rahasyam Chetad Uttamam. Here, the Lord informs Arjuna that this system of yoga, the Bhagavad Gita, was first spoken to the sun god. And the sun god explained it to Manu. And Manu explained it to Ikshvaku. And in that way, by disciplic succession, one speaker after another, this yoga system has been coming down. But in the course of time, it has become lost. Consequently, the Lord has to speak it again, this time to Arjuna, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He tells Arjuna that he is relating the supreme secret to him because Arjuna is his devotee and his friend. He says, Bhaktaha asi me sakhacha iti. because you are my devotee and my friend. Therefore, this supreme rahasya, confidential teaching, has been imparted by me to you. The purport of this, the intended meaning of this remark of Lord Krishna is that Bhagavad-gita is a treatise which is especially meant for the devotee of the Lord. There are three classes of transcendentalists, namely the Jnani, the Yogi, and the Bhakta, or the impersonalist, the meditator, and the devotee. Here the Lord clearly tells Arjuna that he is making him the first receiver of a new parampara, disciplic succession, because the old succession was broken. It was the Lord's wish, therefore, to establish another parampara in the same line of thought that was coming down from the sun god to others. And it was his wish that his teaching be distributed anew by Arjuna. He wanted Arjuna to become the authority in understanding the Bhagavad-gita. So we see that Bhagavad-gita is instructed to Arjuna, especially because Arjuna was a devotee of the Lord, a direct student of the Lord, and his intimate friend. Now, a devotee of the Lord necessarily has to be a student of the Lord. You cannot be a devotee of Lord Krishna and disagree with Lord Krishna's presentation of the conclusion of Vedic knowledge. So Arjuna was a devoted, direct student of Lord Krishna. And he was also an intimate friend of Lord Krishna. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is best understood by a person who has qualities similar to Arjuna's. That is to say, he must be a devotee in a direct relationship with the Lord. As soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, he also has a direct relationship with the Lord. That is a very elaborate subject matter. Elaborate subject matter. It has been analyzed in Bhakti Sandarbha and Preeti Sandarbha. It has been elaborated in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But briefly, it can be stated that a devotee is in a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of 5 different ways. One may be a devotee in a passive state, passive adoration. One may be a devotee in an active state, servitude. One may be a devotee as a friend, friendship. One may be a devotee as a parent of Krishna, parental affection. One may be a devotee as a conjugal lover of Krishna. Arjuna was in a relationship with the Lord as friend. Of course, there is a gulf of difference between this friendship and the friendship found in the material world. This is transcendental friendship which cannot be had by everyone. Of course, everyone has a particular relationship with the Lord, and that relationship is evoked by the perfection of devotional service. But in the present status of our life, not only have we forgotten the Supreme Lord, but we have forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord. Every living being, out of the many, many billions and trillions of living beings, has a particular relationship with the Lord eternally. That is called Swarup. One's factual nature, one's factual form, one's actual identity. By the process of devotion service, one can revive that Swarup. That stage is called Swarupa Siddhi, perfection of one's constitutional position. So Arjuna was a devotee, and he was in touch with the Supreme Lord in friendship. How? So anyway, the point is, the teachings of Lord Krishna can best be understood by those who are not only devotees of Lord Krishna, but also perfect pure devotees of Lord Krishna. Because only when you attain the perfection of pure devotional service to Krishna, your original relationship with Lord Krishna will be revived and revealed. So Arjuna was perpetually in that state of Swarupa Siddhi. So he represents all perfect pure devotees of Krishna. So the idea is that the Bhagavad Gita can only be, just as the Bhagavad Gita was understood by Arjuna. After Krishna spoke everything, finally he asks him, have you understood everything? And then Arjuna says, Ashtomo Hasmitar Labdha. That is because of this. There is a misconception promoted by the Jnanis, as well as, of course, academic scholars, that bhakti, being an emotional process, cannot contribute to, knowledge of reality. Because emotions cloud perception of reality. But that is why it was pointed out the sort of devotion that we are talking of, bhakti, is actually a refined version of knowledge itself. Therefore, Sri Baladevi Devbhushan stated that bhakti is a jnana vishesha. It is a refinement of the process of knowledge, of realizing the supreme absolute truth. How Arjuna accepted this Bhagavad Gita should be noted. His manner of acceptance is given in the 10th chapter, 10.12 to 14. Arjuna Vacha. Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adidevam Ajam Vibhum, Ahustvam Rishayas Sarve Devarshis Naradas Tatha, Asito Devalo Vyasas Swayam Chaiva Bravishine, Sarvametad Ritam Manye Yamam Vadasi Keshava, Nahi Te Bhagavan Vyaktum Vidur Devana Danavah. Arjuna said, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Sita, Devala, and Vyasa confirm this truth about you. And now you yourself are declaring it to me. Oh Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. So this is Arjuna's understanding of Bhagavad Gita. It is his understanding of Lord Krishna's position. Krishna had objected to Arjuna's statements in the first 6 chapters, in chapter 3 and in chapter 5. But after that, you will not find Lord Krishna denying Arjuna's statements. So these statements that Arjuna had made about Lord Krishna also, Krishna does not deny their validity. After hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. Every living being is Brahman, but the Supreme Living Being or the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Brahman. Param Dhama means that he is a supreme rest or abode of heaven. Pavitram means that he is pure, untainted by material contamination. Purusham means that he is a supreme enjoyer. Shashvatam, eternal. Divyam, transcendental. Adidevam, the original Supreme Personality of God. Ajam, the unborn, and Vidvan, the greatest. Now one may think that because Krishna was a friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him all this by way of flattery. But Arjuna, just to drive out this kind of doubt from the minds of the readers of Bhagavad Gita, substantiates these phrases in the next verse when he says that Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead not only by himself, but by authorities like Narada, Sita, Devala, and Vyasadeva. These are great personalities who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is accepted by all acharyas. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he says to be completely perfect. Sarvametad ritam manye. I accept everything you say to be true. Arjuna also says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand and that he cannot be known even by the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human. So how can a human being understand Lord Shri Krishna without becoming his devotee? Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken out in a spirit of devotion. So, coming back earlier, almost every one of the commentators of Bhagavad Gita in the English speaking world has expressed his own opinions without touching the spirit of Bhagavad Gita as it is. So that spirit of Bhagavad Gita is the spirit of Arjuna, which is this. This is nothing but brilliant Vaishnava monotheism. And this is how it has been accepted by standard authorities. It is not just Arjuna speaking. This is exactly how Vedic knowledge was understood in the past. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken out in a spirit of devotion. If you notice, if you remember, the person who is qualified to study the Bhagavad Gita is Shraddhalu, Sadharmanistha, Vijitendriya. Shraddhalu, Sadharmanistha. That is understood from Arjuna's remarks here. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna. Nor should one think that Krishna is an ordinary personality or even a very great personality. Lord Shri Krishna is the supreme personality of God. So according to the statements of Bhagavad-gita or the statements of Arjuna, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad-gita, we should at least theoretically accept Shri Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad-gita. So that spirit or attitude is very important. Yasya devi para bhaktir, yatha devi tatha gurau, tasyaiva, what is that? How does it go? Yasya devi para bhaktir, yatha devi tatha gurau, tasyaite kathita hyartha prakashanti mahatmana. So the faith that one has in the Supreme Lord, that should be implicit and absolute. That is one of the requirements. We should at least theoretically accept Shri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Unless one reads the Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita because it is a great mystery. Just what is the Bhagavad Gita? The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the nescience of material existence. Nescience. Ignorance of material existence. The purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Sri Gita-Bhusana had already remarked. Ashesha Klesha, Nivritti Purvaka, Shri Krishna Anubhava, Sakshat Shri Krishna Anubhava. That is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, the Prayojana. So, the first aspect of that is brought out here. That in the Bhagavad Gita frees one from all kinds of difficulties. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways, as Arjuna also was in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrendered unto Shri Krishna, and consequently this Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Not only Arjuna, but every one of us is full of anxieties because of this material existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other we are put into asat. Asat refers to that which does not exist. Okay, there's some question here.
Prabhu, when you said that Sakshat Bhagavad Darshanam, by understanding Bhagavad Gita, one can have that?
By studying Bhagavad Gita and obeying Bhagavad Gita, one can come to that point.
Bhagavad Gita itself is sufficient to realize God.
Yes, provided you carry out the instructions of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita.
And when it says it is a great mystery, so what is that mystery talking about?
Prabhupada said mystery means it's complicated. It needs to be studied and analyzed carefully under parampara explanation, with parampara explanation to understand it correctly. Otherwise, it will always be confusing. That is the meaning of mystery.
Okay, bro. And one more point came that even demigods cannot understand, but humans, how can they understand? So here, when demigods, we say those demigods who are having a material desires.
Yeah, by themselves they cannot understand. It is not that just because you have a superior body you can understand.
But the demigods are devotees.
That's okay, but devotee can become non-devotee and all that. A demigod can act like an asura. An asura can act like a demigod. So it is not just because they have the intellectual facility of a demigod you can understand Krishna. That is the point.
Okay, Prabhu.
Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their position as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering but rather wants to make a solution to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. Unless one comes to this point of understanding, Oham, who am I? Kimidam Vishwam. What is this world in which I am? Avayo dhruvam katham. What is the relationship between me and this world? Atmanam nivritto jiva prichyati jnanasiddhaye. An introspective person, in order to attain the perfection of, in order to have a complete and clear understanding of his this situation, he will always endeavor to find out. He will become inquisitive. So actually, Bhagavad-gita is meant for uh, such a person who has faith in Lord Krishna, who has faith that Bhagavad-gita correctly explains the teachings of Bhagavad-gita, of the Vedic scriptures. We will see that. Lord Krishna will tell that. Prabhupada will tell that, and we will see that itself is based on statements of Lord Krishna and Bhagavad-gita. Such a person is considered a proper human being. Question.
Prabhuji, this questioning the suffering. So once you were also mentioning that we feed the hungry, we neglect the non-hungry, and or otherwise we need to do something so that they become hungry. So this percentage of people who question their suffering or who are inquisitive, they seems to be like very less. Or sometimes it looks like initially they have some interest, and over the time, when we keep in touch with them, they don't turn out to be that serious to continue Krishna consciousness. So, can you give some inputs regarding how to make the non-hungry into hungry?
That anyway, Maya has been trying since time immemorial. That each living entity will have to decide. Krishna is bothered about that. We should just be looking out for spiritually hungry souls and try to give them Krishna consciousness. The more pure we become, Krishna will arrange for such souls to come in contact with us. Okay. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jigyasa, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the absolute. Parabhavastavad abodha jata yavan jigyasata atmatattvam. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering and where they came from and where they shall go after death are proper students for understanding Bhagavad-gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vadhalu, Sadharmanishta, interested in the transcendental science. Such a student was Arjuna. And of course, he has to also be sufficiently self-disciplined to accept the process taught by Lord Krishna. Such a student was Arjuna. Lord Krishna descends specifically to re-establish the real purpose of life when man forgets that purpose. Even then, out of many, many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position. So many people, out of the millions of human beings, there are only some who come to this point of questioning Where am I? What is going on? What is the meaning of existence? And so on. And amongst them, there may be a few, or in fact, only one or two, maybe even, who enters the spirit of understanding his position, who has firm respect for Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the speaker of Bhagavad-gita. And for him, this Bhagavad-gita is spoken. Question.
When Prabhupada writes here, firm respect for the Supreme Personality Godhead, it in the previous paragraph it is mentioned that at least one should have a theoretical, one should accept Krishna as theoretically as the Supreme Person Godhead. Then again, it is saying that firm respect. So
Yes.
when the theoretical understanding that accepting Krishna as the God, again how he will have that firm respect for the same thing?
No. If he theoretically accepts Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he should also have firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, naturally. Because if Krishna is that Supreme Being, then naturally you have to have firm respect for him. How else can it be? If the Prime Minister of India has come to my house, if then I have to also deal with him with great respect. If he has actually come, then I have to deal with him with great respect. If he has not come, that's a different issue. But if he has come, then I'll have to deal with him with great respect. Like that. It naturally matches.
Yeah, but in that case, that he is physically coming, so one will have that respect. But here we are accepting him, Krishna, as a supreme God, as a theoretically. So there is no
Yes.
realization. Either he is going to meet him.
No. You're missing the point. This is a spiritual text which is a communication for all the souls. So that text itself contains sufficient knowledge to help us get out of the ignorance of material existence. So if I accept that this text, because there are so many texts, but if I accept that no, this text is spoken by Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna is actually that Supreme Being. So I must actually find the answers to my questions from here and nowhere else. That will naturally come. So firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead means firm respect for Bhagavad-gita.
Okay.
Actually, we are all swallowed by the tigress of nations. This is straight from Baladev Vidya-Bhusana. Avidya Sharduli Vadanad. But the Lord is very merciful upon living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke the Bhagavad-gita, making his friend Arjuna his student. Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorance. But Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human beings and chalk out the plan of life. Then man would act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. The subject of the Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehension of 5 basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of the living entities, jivas. There is Ishvara, which means the controller, and there are jivas, the living entities, which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled, but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with the Ishvara, the supreme controller, and the Jivas, the controlled living entities. Prakriti, material nature, and time, the duration of existence of the whole universe, or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, activity, are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From Bhagavad Gita, we must learn what God is, what the living entities are, what Prakriti is, what the cosmic manifestation is, how it is controlled by time, and what the activities of the living entities are. So the 5 subjects. Out of these 5 basic subject matters in Bhagavad-gita, it is established that the Supreme Godhead or Krishna or Brahman or the Supreme Controller, Parameshwara or Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like, is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like the Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord has control over the universal affairs of material nature, as will be explained in the later chapters of Bhagavad-gita. Material nature is not independent. She is acting under the directions of the Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna says, Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharachara. This material nature is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, we should know that behind this cosmic manifestation there is a controller. Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. It is childish not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or other animal pulling it. But a sane man knows the nature of the automobile's engineering arrangement. He always knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the driver under whose direction everything is working. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hrideshirjana tishtati ramayan sarvabhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. Now, the jivas or the living entities have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in the later chapters, as his parts and parcels. Amaivamsho, Jivaloke, Jivabhuta, Sanatana. Sanatanaha Amsha. Jivabhutaha Mamaeva Sanatanaha Amshaha. A particle of gold is also gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty. And similarly, we, the living entities, being part and parcel of the Supreme Controller, Ishvara or Bhagavan, Lord Sri Krishna, have all the qualities of the Supreme Lord in minute quantity because we are minute Ishvaras, subordinate Ishvaras. So we learn that from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu itself. Out of the 64 primary qualities of Lord Krishna, the first 50 primary qualities, they are also found in the living entities. And when the living entity becomes fully liberated, he will be able to manifest drops of each of those qualities. Krishna himself is considered to possess oceans of each of those qualities. So qualitatively, there is a large degree of oneness. Of course, Krishna has certain features which the Jivatmas don't have. Is also there. But still, most of these qualities are there. We are trying to control nature. As presently, we are trying to control space or planets. And this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the supreme control. This is explained in Bhagavad-gita. What is material nature? So the first 2 topics have been touched upon. Now Prabhupada touches upon the third subject matter of Bhagavad-gita, material nature. What is material nature? This is also explained in the Gita as inferior prakriti, inferior nature. The living entity is explained as a superior prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. The living entities and material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. Aparayamitaswanyam prakritim vidhime param jiva bhutam. This material nature is my inferior prakriti. But beyond this is another prakriti, jiva bhutam, the living entities. Material nature itself is constituted by 3 qualities: the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. Above these modes, there is eternal time. And by a combination of these modes of nature and under the control and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. So, between Ishvara, Jiva, and Prakriti, it would be more clear to say that the Jivas are actually Jiva Prakritis, and Prakriti itself is Achit Prakriti. We can refer to the Jivas as Chit, spiritual nature. But this will be, but material nature is also another type of Prakriti. You can say that material nature is inferior Prakriti, the living entities are superior Prakritis. So there's a similarity between the Jiva and Prakriti, in that both of them are subordinate to Krishna. Kala is also subordinate to Krishna. This is also simply a development of point that Baladev Vidya-Bhusana has made. Out of Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, Karma, the ones beginning from Jiva are all under the control of Ishvara. Then material nature was defined as Prakriti was defined as that material object which is the shelter of the three qualities Satoguna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. So Prabhupada now brings that up here. He says material nature is constituted by three qualities. Then there is eternal time, Kala. Kala is also material, but Kala is not constituted of the three modes. But under Prakriti and Kala, when the Jivatma falls under the control of Prakriti and Kala, then he engages in various material activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities. So when the Jiva tries to enjoy Prakriti, those activities are called karma. And when we follow dharma, when we enjoy, when we follow adharma, we suffer. But in both cases, one is trying, the jivas are trying to enjoy Prakriti. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I'm a businessman and I work very hard with intelligence and I've amassed a great bank balance. Then I'm an enjoyer. But then say I've lost all my money in business, then I'm a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work or we suffer the results. In every field of life means it also includes over the lifetimes. In this lifetime, I engage in pious activities. So I get a little bit benefit of it in this life, but the major benefit I will attain in after this life, in my afterlife, in my next life. Same way with suffering. I may attain a little bit of suffering in this life, but the majority of it can be expected in my next life. So this is called karma. Just like within one lifetime itself, I work very hard with my intelligence and I earn a lot of money and I enjoy. The same way in with intelligence and with self-discipline, I engage in various pious activities and I earn a lot of pious credits. Then in my next life, I enjoy. It's like even in this example of businessman and all. You work hard, then you get money, then you enjoy. The same way, you engage in pious activities, then you get pious credits, then you enjoy. So that may take over lifetimes. This is called karma. Question.
Prabhu, there is one line that we have tendency to control because it is there in Krishna also. So, is there any way to curb this, or Like it's a sort of anartha. So how to deal with it?
So therefore, there is arrangement. One accepts the injunctions of scriptures, so that gradually we get out of harmful desires to control others. All of that comes when we engage in the process properly.
Prabhu, there are
Able to get out.
sorry, no.
Tell me.
I was asking, then are there harmless desires to control also? Because it is intrinsic
That will come later on. That will come later on. That will come later on. That will come later. From Tamoguna, first one comes to Rajoguna, then one comes to Sattva-guna, then one comes to the fully transcendental platform of pure devotion service to Krishna.
So in that stage, what does Jiva actually controls? Because anyway, he will control something. So what he will control exactly in purified state?
What purified state? First he has to be purified of all these adharmic desires to control. Then afterwards, when he comes to the Sattva-guna, he does not have a desire to control anything material. He has no desire to control anything material at all. So that is at a much later point.
No, means I think because this desire to control will be there even when he is purified. So if he will not control material things, then what he will control actually? This is what I wanted to ask. Sure.
He will only do whatever is required to please Lord Krishna. He will not do anything beyond that. He will have no desire to lord it over material nature. Whatever is within his jurisdiction, he will want to utilize it exclusively for the service of Lord Krishna. That's what he will do. He will use it only for Anyabhilashita, Sunyam, Jnana Karma, Jnanavritam, and so on when he comes to the transcendental stage.
Okay. Prabhu, one more is that when you said karma, he enjoys his result in the next life, whether it is good or bad, most of it. So, is there any anywhere mentioned this thing?
Yes, these things are all discussed in the scriptures. Comes in Mahabharata. These things are all analyzed.
Okay. Okay. So, can we get that reference?
Ask in the group.
Okay. Okay, bro. I'll put the message.
Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, nature, Kala, eternal time, and Karma, activity, are all explained in the Bhagavad-gita. Out of these five, the Lord, the living entities, material nature, and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false. But according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnavas, this is not so. The manifestation of the world is not accepted as false. It is accepted as real but temporary. It is likened unto a cloud which moves across the sky, or the coming of the rainy season which nourishes rains. As soon as the rainy season is over and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which were nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestation takes place at a certain interval, stays for a while, and then disappears. Such are the workings of Prakriti. But this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This material nature is the separated energy of the Supreme Lord, Inna Prakriti. And similarly, the living entities are also the energy of the Supreme Lord, although they are not separated but eternally related. So the Lord, the living entity, material nature, and time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other item, karma, is not eternal. The effects of karma may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities from time immemorial. But we can change the results of our karma or our activity. And this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We're engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all these activities. But this is also explained in the Bhagavad-gita. That is why he is saying this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We need to know what sort of activities we need to do and what sort of activities we should not do. That is the perfection of our knowledge. The position of Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, is that of supreme consciousness. The jivas, or the living entities, being parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are also conscious. Both the living entity and material nature are explained as Prakriti, the energy of the Supreme Lord, but one of the two, the jiva, is conscious. The other Prakriti is not conscious. That is the difference. Therefore, the jiva Prakriti is called superior because the jiva has consciousness which is similar to the Lord's. The Lord's is supreme consciousness, however, and one should not claim that the jiva, the living entity, is also supremely conscious. The living being cannot be supremely conscious at any stage of his perfection. And the theory that he can be so is a misleading theory. Conscious he may be, but he is not perfectly or supremely conscious. At any point in time, even after he attains Krishna Prema, whatever, he can never ever become supremely conscious or absolutely conscious of everything like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The distinction between the Jiva and the Ishvara will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. The Lord is Kshetragya, conscious, as is the living being, but the living being is conscious of his particular body, whereas the Lord is conscious of all bodies. Swa Kshetragya, Sarva Kshetragya. Each living entity is Swa Kshetragya. He is conscious of his field of activity. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is conscious of all the fields of activities. Because he lives in the heart of every living being, he is conscious of the psychic movements of the particular jivas. We should not forget this. It is also explained that the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishvara, as a controller, and that he is giving directions for the living entity to act as he desires. The living entity forgets what to do. First of all, he makes a determination to act in a certain way, and then he is entangled in the actions and reactions of his own karma. After giving up one type of body, he enters another type of body. As we take off and put on clothes, as the soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattasmritir jnano apohanam cha. There is a Supreme Lord who impels the living entity to resume that pursuit that he had forgotten from his past life or earlier this very life. After giving up one type of body, he enters another type of body as we take off and put on clothes. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. As the soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. These activities can be changed when the living being is in the mode of goodness, insanity, and understands what sort of activities he should adopt. If he does so, then all the actions and reactions of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. Anadi, but vinashi. Karma is beginningless, but it is perishable. If we engage in the right type of activities, then karma can be destroyed. Therefore, we stated that of the 5 items, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, time, and Karma, 4 are eternal, whereas Karma is not eternal. The Supreme Conscious Ishvara is similar to the living entity in this way. Both the consciousness of the Lord and that of the living entity are transcendental. It is not that consciousness is generated by the association of matter. That is a mistaken idea. The theory that consciousness develops under certain circumstances of material combination is not accepted in the Bhagavad-gita. Consciousness may be pervertedly reflected by the covering of material circumstances. Just as light reflected through colored glass may appear to be a certain color, but the consciousness of the Lord is not materially affected. So for the living entity, my consciousness is covered by my subtle body and further by my gross body. And just as a light bulb with a red fluorescent or a red plastic paper put on it seems to emit red light. So like that, if I'm in tamoguna, my consciousness appears to be tamasic. If I'm in sattvaguna, it appears to be sattvic. If it is rajoguna, my body is in rajoguna, then my perception appears to be rajasic. But that is not the situation with Lord Krishna. Whatever form that he manifests, whether he manifests a form that corresponds to a material tamasic form or a material rajasic form or a material sattvic form, his form is always spiritual, and therefore his consciousness is never ever materially affected. Lord Krishna says, Mayadhyakshena Prakriti. When he descends into the material universe, his consciousness is not materially affected. If he were so affected, he would be unfit to speak on transcendental matters as he does in the Bhagavad-gita. One cannot say anything about the transcendental world without being free from materially contaminated consciousness. One cannot say anything about the transcendental world without being free from materially contaminated consciousness. You cannot describe that world and while claiming to have personally realized it, if you also exhibit material contaminated consciousness. So the Lord is not materially contaminated. Our consciousness at the present moment, however, is materially contaminated. The Bhagavad-gita teaches that we have to purify this materially contaminated consciousness. In pure consciousness, our actions will be dovetailed to the will of the Ishvara, and that will make us happy. Nashto moha, smritir labdha. Nashto moha, smritir labdha, tvat prasadat, mayachyuta. By your mercy, O Lord Achyuta, my delusions have been dispelled. I have regained my memory. Stomoha smritirlabdha prasadan mayachyuta sthitosmi. Now I'm fixed up. Gata sandeha. I have no doubts whatsoever. Karishye vachanam tava. I will do what you say. This is pure consciousness. In pure consciousness, our actions will be dovetailed to the will of the Ishvara, and that will make us happy. It is not that we have to cease all activities, rather our activities are to be purified, and purified activities are called bhakti. Activities in bhakti appear to be like ordinary activities, but they are not contaminated. An ordinary person may see that a devotee is acting or working like an ordinary man, but such a person with a poor fund of knowledge does not know that the activities of the devotee or of the Lord are not contaminated by impure consciousness or matter. They're transcendental to the 3 modes of nature. We should know, however, that at this point, our consciousness is contaminated. When we are materially contaminated, we are called conditioned. False consciousness is exhibited under the impression that I am a product of material nature. Yaya sammohito jiva manyate trigunatmakam. Bewildered by Maya, the Jivatma thinks that I'm a product of the 3 modes of material nature, which means one thinks that the products of the modes of material nature is myself. The product of the modes of material nature or the product of material nature is one's subtle body or gross body. This is called false ego. One who is absorbed in the thought of bodily conceptions cannot understand his situation. Bhagavad-gita was spoken to liberate one from the bodily conception of life, and Arjuna put himself in this position in order to receive this information from the Lord. One must become free from the bodily conception of life. That is the preliminary activity for the transcendentalist. For all types of transcendentalists, whether they are jnanis seeking Brahmopalabdhi, yogis seeking Paramatmopalabdhi, or bhaktas seeking Bhagavad Upalabdhi. One who wants to become free, who wants to become liberated, must first of all learn that he is not this material body. Mukti or liberation means freedom from material consciousness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also, the definition of liberation is given. Mukti hitvanyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthit. Mukti means liberation from the contaminated consciousness of this material world, situation in pure consciousness. See, even to engage in karma or to participate in the Varnashrama system, one needs to know that he is not this gross body, at least that much. Whereas to become a transcendentalist, to participate in jnana or yoga or bhakti, one has to know that he is not his gross body, he is not his subtle body also. Mukti means liberation from the contaminated consciousness of this material world and situation in pure consciousness. All the instructions of Bhagavad-gita are intended to awaken this pure consciousness, and therefore we find at the last stage of the Gita's instructions that Krishna is asking Arjuna whether he is now in purified consciousness. Tachitte Shutam Partha Vayai Grena Chetasa. You heard everything with undisturbed, with your consciousness, undisturbed, with undisturbed consciousness, in purified consciousness. Purified consciousness means acting in accordance with the instructions of the Lord. Karishye vachanam tava. This is the whole sum and substance of purified consciousness. Consciousness is already there because we are part and parcel of the Lord. But for us, there is the affinity of being affected by the inferior modes. But the Lord, being the Supreme, is never affected. That is the difference between the Supreme Lord and the small individual souls. What is this consciousness? This consciousness is I am, asmadartha. It is the meaning of I, self-identification, and this and that, and so on. Then what am I? In contaminated consciousness, I am means I am the Lord of all I survey. I am the enjoyer. I am the Lord of all I survey, and I am the enjoyer. I am the Karta, I am the proprietor, and enjoyer of all I survey. That means anything which is under my control, I am the proprietor of that. I can do whatever I want with that. And I am its enjoyer. I can utilize them to become happy in whatever way I want. The world revolves because every living being thinks that he is the Lord and creator of the material world. He thinks that he is the one who's creating various combinations of this material world. And therefore, he is the proprietor of those combinations. Material consciousness has two psychic divisions. One is that I'm the creator, and the other is that I'm the enjoyer. Here, creator has been taken from the concept of kartri, an enjoyer from the concept of bhoktri, bhokta, karta, doer, creator, are identical in this context. But actually, the Supreme Lord is both the creator and the enjoyer. And the living entity being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord is neither the creator nor the enjoyer, but a cooperator. So the Supreme Lord is the independent creator, he is the independent enjoyer. The living being is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, he is ever dependent on the Supreme Lord. So you can never ever say that he is the independent creator of anything. Nor can you say that he is the independent enjoyer of anything. He is the enjoyer. That's okay. But he is not the independent enjoyer. He is a cooperator. Factually speaking, as Prabhupada points out immediately, he is the created and the enjoyed. For instance, a part of a machine cooperates with the whole machine. A part of the body cooperates with the whole body. The hands, legs, eyes, and so on are all parts of the body, but they are not actually the enjoyers. The stomach is the enjoyer. Does it mean that the hands, legs, eyes, and other parts of the body do not derive benefit from the food that is put into the stomach? Yes, it is. But they are secondary. They are dependent on the stomach. Dependent enjoyers, not independent enjoyers. The legs move, the hands supply food, and the teeth chew, and all parts of the body are engaged in satisfying the stomach because the stomach is the principal factor that nourishes the body's organization. Therefore, everything is given to the stomach. One nourishes the tree by watering its root, and one nourishes the body by feeding the stomach. So the body is nourished. The other parts of the body, other than the stomach, are also nourished. It's not only the stomach is nourished, but the other parts of the body are dependent on the stomach. Other than the root, there are other parts of the tree. They are also nourished. The root is also nourished. But the other parts of the tree are dependent on the root. For if the body is to be kept in a healthy state, then the parts of the body must cooperate to feed the stomach. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the enjoyer and the creator, and we as subordinate living beings are meant to cooperate to satisfy him. This cooperation will actually help us. So, Prabhupada points out that actually this cooperation will actually help us. Just as food taken by the stomach will help all other parts of the body. If the fingers of the hand think that they should take the food themselves instead of giving it to the stomach, then they'll be frustrated. Therefore, Prabhupada says the enjoyer is the stomach. The immediate enjoyer is meant to be the stomach. The immediate enjoyer is not meant to be the fingers of the hand. They are meant to be subsequent enjoyers. Then there will be, if the fingers of the hand think that they should take the food themselves instead of giving it to the stomach, then they'll be frustrated. The central figure of creation and of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, and the living entities are cooperators. By cooperation, they enjoy. And it is by cooperation they create also. So they are subordinate creators. They are not the actual creators. Question.
So when Prabhupada writes that one thinks himself the creator of the world, so who thinks like that, that I am the creator of this world?
The creator of this world means I am the creator of whatever combinations that I am producing in this world. I built this building. What is this building? This building, all the elements of this building are actually part of this world, which belongs to the Supreme Lord, who has actually created this world through Brahma. But that particular configuration, known as this house, he thinks he created it. I created this building. He created that, whatever, that factory. A woman thinks she created a child, and so on.
Okay, bro.
By cooperation, they enjoy. The relation is also like that of the master and the servant. If the master is fully satisfied, then the servant is satisfied. Similarly, the Supreme Lord should be satisfied. Although the tendency to become the creator and the tendency to enjoy the material world are there also in the living entities, because these tendencies are there in the Supreme Lord who has created the manifested cosmic world. We shall find, therefore, in this Bhagavad-gita that the complete whole is comprised of the Supreme Controller, the controlled living entities, the complete manifestation, eternal time, and karma or activities. And all of these are explained in this text. All of these taken completely form the complete whole. And the complete whole is called the Supreme Absolute Truth. The complete whole and the complete absolute truth are the complete personality of Goddess Sri Krishna. All manifestations are due to his different energies. He is the complete whole. So, Sarvam Shaktimad Brahma. There's only one supreme absolute truth, according to Sri Baladev Gita-Bhusana. There's only one Brahman who is existing, because everything other than him is his potency, and his potencies, and all of his potencies are inseparable from him and absolutely under his control. That is as good as saying he alone exists. Okay, we'll stop with that. We'll resume in the next session. Ancha kalpatarvyasya kripa sindhu kyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaः.